Hi friends, and welcome back to Jewelry with Jen. It is Friday Frolic Funday. It's so exciting. It's one of my favorite days of the week. I hope it's one of yours. I hope you all are having a wonderful Friday and you guys are excited to get going for the weekend. So to get started, guys, I took my wire and I cut it in half. So each piece is 12 inches. Okay, so we have 2 pieces of wire. And I already started it out by simply putting on a crimp and adding a clamshell just to go ahead and get it started. And if you're new to making bracelets like those with clamshells, don't worry, you're going to see me do it on the other side, so you will catch that. Okay, so I just went ahead and got it started. Now, the reason we're using 2 strands, and I'm just going to flush cut my ends here, guys, is because we're doing that split throughout as I showed you in the sample. And so I'm just trying to flush cut my ends here. And so if we're not doing the split, basically, which is these little 3 sections, we're going to be putting our strands together to feed the other beads on. Okay, so to start out, as I said, I already got my clamshell, crimped up that end, and I'm going to keep my strands together to put on my champagne rondelle. And then I am going to put on, I'm not even going to bother to sort it. I'm going to put on a bead cap. I'm just going to grab them as I go by looking at my sample. And then we'll put on 3 of these 8mm crackle glass beads here. We're going to put on 3. And again, I'm putting everything through both strands right now. Okay. And then I will hug a bead cap on that other section, or that section of those 3 crackle autumn beads. Okay, and then what we're going to do from here is we are going to do our first split. Okay, so I'm going to push this stuff up. Okay, and so I'm going to push this a little out of my way. So this is what I have. Okay, and so now we're going to begin our split. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take each piece of my wire and I am going to put on an 11/0. And, you know, guys, if you're not interested in the kit, that's fine too. I just hope you guys stay with me. And hopefully this gives you some inspiration. Just pull some beads from your stash because it's a really, really cool technique. If you've not done it yet, really, really cool. You can use any beads, really. And if you've got some leather, but you don't even have to add the leather. You can keep the leather out of it. I just think it gives it a little something extra. So there we go. There's our 2 little 11/0s right there, 1 on each strand. And so once again, I'm going to work on 1 strand at a time, and I'm going to be feeding on 2 of the 4mm pale green. These are imitation jade and pale green faceted rondelles, 4mm. So I'm going to feed on 2 of those, and then 1 of the 4mm faceted rondelles in the peach, and then 2 more of the pale green imitation jade. Okay, and then I'm going to put on another 11/0 seed bead, and that'll be our split design throughout the whole bracelet. Now I'm going to repeat that on the other side, show you, and that is our little, it's going to act as our little split section to put our leather through. Okay, and so now we're going to go ahead and put our strands back together, and then I am going to do another champagne rondelle. And I'm going to be doing 3 of the howlite. And again, with our strands together, guys. What a fun project. This is such a fun project, guys. It really is. This is a fun one. I really like this one. And then another champagne rondelle. Okay. And so that's what we have. Okay, and then we're going to go ahead and do that little split section again. Okay, so that is what we have. Okay, that is what we have. Okay. Now, what we're going to do, I'm going to pull you back up here, is we'll go ahead now and we're going to crimp it off. And we're going to be using several different types of jump rings. There's a method to my madness. Well, I'll tell you why in a minute. But let's put our, go ahead and finish this off. So we'll put our strands together, guys. And the first thing we're going to do is let's go ahead and we feed the clamshell on with the belly up, right? So I'm going to put both my wires through that hole there of the clamshell. If I can get through. Well, let's go one at a time. Maybe that's what he wants. That's fine too. Okay, I think I got them through. Yeah. Okay, and so the belly of the clam is facing up. Okay, we'll let that drop down. And then we're going to put our crimp on, again, both of our wires. Okay, so I fed my crimp down both of my wires. Okay, and then I'm going to go ahead and let that drop down. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and put my bracelet in like a half circle like this. And I am going to kind of make sure everything is pushed down, especially paying attention to my little splits. I don't want these little levinos vying for attention. I kind of want them to be parallel to each other here on either side. And go ahead and squeeze that crimp inside the belly of that clamshell. We're going to give that a squeeze. I can get a hold to it. I think I got it. And then you can pull your clamshell to do your tug test and make sure that you're good. You can also put a dab of glue right in here, you guys. Absolutely. If you want a little extra security, you can absolutely do that. And then I'm going to go ahead and flush cut out my wires. And if you need to open up your clamshell a little bit, sometimes I do that so that I can get in there. That's fine. Just want to make sure that my wires are cut. They are not on my crimp, right? You see I have a little bit of a tail, but not enough tail to where I can't hide it inside of my clamshell. Okay, so now we'll go ahead and squeeze the body of the clamshell closed. On my clamshell on this side, where my lobster is, I use the 6mm jump ring, the 5mm oval, and then the lobster. On the other side, I put the oval on the clamshell and then added my large 10mm jump ring. Okay? And so now, guys, what we're going to do is you are going to grab your leather. Okay, and as you know, sometimes you need to warm it up. You need to let your leather relax because, it's kind of all funky and twisted up. But it will relax over time. Okay, it also helps when you run your fingers over your leather, for a minute or two and warm it up. It makes it much more pliable to work with. Now, this, by the way, is genuine leather. Okay, so what I'm going to do, guys, is I am going to take one side of my leather and I am going to put it through the oval on this side where there's no clasp. Okay, I'm going to put it right through my oval jump ring. Okay, just like this. Okay. All right, and then I'm going to kind of try to find the center. Okay. Let me get this turned around so you can see what I'm doing here. Okay, and so now, guys, it's just a matter of we're going to go back and forth with each side of the leather through our little connectors. So what I'll do is I'll take this piece of leather and I'm going to go up from the bottom to the top of that little split area, right? And then I'm going to take this leather and I'm going to go from the top of the split to the bottom. And then he's going to wind up over here. Okay? And then I'm going to move to the next split. And I'm going to go from underneath and feed it through the top of that little split there. Let me pull you down, make sure you guys can really see what I'm doing. And then I'll take this one and I will go from the bottom. Did I just go from the bottom? Yeah. So I will go from the top down and then crisscross hem. Okay. And now we are at our last little split circle here. And so I will take and go up and over. He lands over there. This guy, he's going to go below and up. Oh, I just did it again. So now we need to go from top to bottom. Hope I didn't confuse you guys there. And that is what we have. So I'm looking right here at my clamshell. And I'm holding my leather next to it. And I'm looking at, here's the top of the clamshell. And that would be the top of my crimp here. Right? Because I'm just going to feed it right on the 6mm jump ring. Okay? And so you are going to eyeball it just exactly like that, allocating for just a smidge, like a millimeter of leather that needs to lay inside there. And so we'll lay that leather inside, and then I'm going to kind of push it over and see that that's pretty even. So that loop right there is even with this loop, and I can see where I need to cut my leather right there. Okay? Because you don't want any leather poking on the other side of your cord end. So I am going to take my thumbnail right there. And now what I'm going to do, guys, is I'm going to grab my cutters and I'm going to cut the leather on an angle. So I'm going to cut it on an angle slightly. Okay. And now what you're going to do is I'll pull you up a little bit, but I'll keep you down. So in order to put your leather in these crimp ends, if you are not familiar, it's a little tedious, but no biggie. So we're just going to kind of hold our leather inside. So we're holding the crimp underneath here, and then we have our leather right here. Okay? And notice how I have my leather positioned to where the top of it is not exceeding past the end of the crimp end, because you don't want to see that. And then you're going to grab your chain nose. And so let me grab my chain nose. And you are going to basically fold one side in. Once you get it started, it's fine. Just takes a minute. Okay, so we've got to get the one side folded in. Okay, and pressing that down just like that. Okay, so now I've got the one side in, and now I'm going to go up and down this, pressing pretty hard with my chain nose, as you can see how I'm doing that there. Okay, pressing up and down. Okay, now I need to fold in the other side, and so I will turn it around, and I am now going to take that side and get it going in. With my chain nose. Okay. And then we'll go ahead and fold that down. and it's going to be kind of rounded, and that's kind of what you want. It's going to be somewhat rounded. It's not going to be totally flat. And then I'm just going back and forth across the top here. And the thing I'm concerned about is just that, you know, there's no major edges sticking up. It's a nice cord end, and it has rounded edges anyway. So there's nothing that's going to be like an ouchie or a pokey. That's why I love these cord ends. They're nice and smooth. Okay, and I'll play up just a little bit. And that is what I have. Okay, you see that? There's the back, and there's the front we folded. And now what I'll do is I'm going to go on the opposite side of what I folded, which is over here. And I'm actually going to grab my regular crimping tool, and I kind of go in the center and put it way down at the bottom portion of my crimper. And I'm just going to give it a nice squeeze right there in the center. So you can see my divot there. Okay, and it's not going anywhere, so we don't need to glue. Okay, so that's nice and secure. Now we're going to repeat the exact same thing on this side. What we do is, in order to attach these, okay, we need to go back to the 6mm jump ring, which is on the clamshell. Okay, and we are going to attach each side of the leather cord on either side of the lobster. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and open up the 6mm jump ring, and I have the lobster on the right side here. Let that hang out so I can attach one side first. So we'll open up the 6mm. That's right there on your clamshell. Okay, and then I'm going to bring up this side of the leather, and I'm going to go ahead and add that right there. Okay, and then I am going to go to the other side. I can remove my lobster. I can now add my cord end on this side of the leather to my jump ring, and then go ahead and put my lobster back on the 6mm, and now we can close it up. And that's what you have. And let me pull you down to the mat so you can see how I did that. Really super easy, guys. And if you want to wait until you're done to put on your lobster, you can do that too. But I have each piece of leather on either side of our bracelet. Okay, and so let's come back up and fun. And, you know, grab some beads and grab some leather and make some really fun fall bracelets. So I just am going to take the head pin. It's a 24 gauge ball and head pin that you all received in your kits. You can put them on either way you want. And I'm going to put them on with the green on the bottom. So there's a green rondelle and a champagne rondelle. And you don't have to if you do not want to. You certainly do not have to do a dangle, but, you know, I'm a dangle girl. And I'm just going to do a simple wire wrap. And go ahead and pop that, open up that loop. And I'm going to pop this now right on the jump ring on this side, this 10mm jump ring. I'm going to go ahead and put that right on there. You could also feed it if you want, guys. You can feed it right down here. You could put it anywhere, really, but you could also feed it right there where the leather is on the 5mm oval. You could put it on just the leather if you wanted to do that. You could do whatever you want. So slide that on. Cute. It actually almost makes, I think the leather and the dangle makes the bracelet. Funny how it's all in the details, isn't it? I'll pull you guys up here. So there was our sample. And there is what we just made. And that's what we have. And so as you can see, you know, I've been working on mine, like I said, for a couple weeks. You can see how mine has got, you know, it's a lot more relaxed. I just pulled this leather out right before I started taping, so it's a little stiffer. But it will relax, guys, I promise. If you're familiar with leather, you know that to be the case. And there we go. But it will go ahead and relax. And look how beautiful that is, you guys. I love it. I hope you guys love it too. So thank you guys so much for tuning in to a Friday Frolic Fun Day. And I will see you guys tomorrow for bag launch day. Yay! Until next time, which is actually tomorrow. And I'll see you guys face to face. And you guys have an awesome Friday, okay? And we'll see you tomorrow. Be blessed.